7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Into another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast, and we've got the original crew in studio. And gentlemen, it is one of our favorite times of the year. It is hockey playoffs, first round of the Stanley Cup 2019. I know I'm excited. Are you guys excited?
Absolutely.
You should feel these nipples.
Ooh, you drew blood. Ooh, ouch.
I will take a pass.
His testicles went right up into his body. Yeah, I mean, it's hockey playoffs. Vegas is in again. Obviously, the city's buzzing. Everyone who can't control themselves is just. I don't know if like obsession is the right word. I think we're beyond that here in the city of Vegas. What do you think? Is there a word beyond obsession? Like we don't. I mean, they do stalk the team. I do see pictures of like women who are talking about Eric Holla's butt. I mean, what's a word that's beyond obsession?
I don't know. It's pretty crazy because there's been a few times where I've been driving up the highway, and in the state of Nevada, when you buy a vehicle, you get a temp tag, like a paper tag, and then a date 30 days from the day that you bought it. So you know the exact date when somebody bought the car. Mm-hmm. I have seen multiple cars bought a week or newer ago, or a week or less time ago, with Vegas Golden Knights stickers on them. Fair. So they drive them off the dealer's lot and slap VGK gear on the back of these cars. That's fantastic.
Maybe Finley's just selling them with Vegas.
That could be. I was about to say the dealership could be probably giving those out too.
Yeah. Okay. Question. I know that people who are listening around the country aren't going to know this, but which advertiser are you most sick of? Knockvy?
Oh, yeah.
Adam Kuttner? Or Finley Chevrolet?
No, it's Knockvy by a fucking mile because he's got that stupid insert during Vegas Golden Knights games.
I would say probably Knockvy, yeah.
I got to say Adam or Finley. Knockvy's pretty annoying.
Finley, I don't have any problem.
I just hate it. Like, they're driving a car and all of a sudden in the middle of the highway you're just going to go, woo! It's like, no, you're not. You're going to fucking run into a wall if you do that.
Right in the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's...
And then Adam Kuttner, as a former college hockey player.
Yeah.
Where? Yeah. Everyone has Googled you.
Yeah, and nobody can find it.
Nobody can find it. Intramurals don't count, Adam.
Yeah, he must have been club or intramural level because that's, he definitely was not Division I.
He's on the UNLV club level. Hockey.
Even still, you could find that. I feel like you could find club. Is UNLV, they're still club, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're club, but they're the top tier of club level.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, anyways, look, all that being said, making fun of the city, it's still a really awesome thing to have hockey here in the desert and playoff hockey right out of the gate. But that being said, there's 16 teams left, all 16, in my opinion, especially the way that this sport goes. Everybody's got a shot. You get a hot goalie, you get a little puck luck, a la Braden Holtby last year, and no one can stop you. Mm-hmm. So let's kind of start by thanking the sponsors, 12-Ounce Sports Radio, VGK, or Vegas Puckline Apparel, ChaiPoker.com, and Eric on the Web Productions. Let's start off with initial thoughts on basically the field, Token. Good field, bad field. Do you see any matchups where betting-wise you can, just kind of exploit it, or is this a tough card really in your mind in the first round?
It's definitely an interesting first card from top to bottom. Even the favorites going in of Tampa Bay, I mean, they've got a tough contest right now with the Red Hot Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
And even the Flames on the west side, facing Colorado is no easy contest with that.
Yeah, and
Spike, very, very challenging first line of Colorado.
And Spike, it looks like Columbus, all those moves we were talking about, trading for Duchesne, not trading Artemi Panarin or Bobrovsky. I mean, God forbid if they get through Tampa. I don't know who their GM is, but he's going to look like a genius.
Oh, yeah, no, by a mile. And that was, sort of the win now mentality. The fact that they had to sort of backdoor their way into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But they were doomed if they do, they were doomed if they don't. So it was like a lose-lose situation.
Well, that was the question. If you kind of punted on the season, see what you could get for Artemi and Bobrovsky, would it have been enough, to in the future be competitive, whereas now, like you said, you are competitive. Montreal kind of faded down the stretch, allowing Columbus and Carolina to both get in there. But you're right. I mean, Columbus is playing hot hockey, and as a Bolts fan, I mean, I would rather see an Islander or a Penguin, but that's not the way these playoffs are set up. But Hurricanes would have been my choice, but that's not the way the cookie crumbled. So let's kind of break these series down one by one. We can all give our predictions on how it's going to go. And if you're listening to this on 12 Ounce or on our website, Vegas Squares, we have a bracket challenge for bragging rights up on bracketchallenge.nhl.com. You search the league Vegas Squares, and the password is in all lowercase letters, one word, Vegas Squares. Get in there, fill out a bracket, compete for bragging rights. I think we have like 8 or 9 people in there, and I don't think either of you are one of them just yet.
Not yet.
I did it last night,
okay.
and I think I was number 11.
Oh, even so, we're up to 11
Nice.
now. So Token's slacking, and I think Mr. Tony Johnson.
I'm doing my research.
Doing your research. What are you reading? Sinbin.Vegas?
No, right now I'm looking up goalie stats and all that. And
Like, I hate to poo on some of our media, and Sinbin does a really, really great job. He's been on the show before.
Yeah.
And he's actually not one of them talking about specifically, but there's a lot of VGK ball washing around the local media now, especially in the radio shows and everything. And don't get me wrong, and we'll talk about that series because it's probably one of the more interesting series. But
Really?
I think they're in for they're in for a dogfight. But you might disagree.
I completely do.
All right. Well,
But-
let's start with Nashville and Dallas, who I think is going to be the least interesting series in the West.
okay.
So obviously you have the Predators. They are the Central Division champions again. They're going to raise a banner just like they always do.
Oh, yeah.
I'm cool.
Are they going to throw a catfish on the ice like they always do?
What did they raise the banner
Yes.
for last year? Western Conference regular season.
Western Conference regular season champions.
Do you think Calgary's going to raise that
They
one?
have already said they are not going to do that.
Well,
Look, I'm
Calgary's
cool with
already got
raising
like
Central Division
20
titles. I'm cool with that, but not regular season conference champion.
Yeah, no, that makes no sense to me.
That's college basketball shit. So, anyways, look, they've made the moves. I picked up what's his name, Wayne Simmons. Traded him for Ryan Hartman. They're just reloaded. I mean, Pekka Rinne kind of goes with this team. The only thing I have to say that makes Nashville strong is if Pekka Rinne struggles, their backup goalie Saros is pretty much almost as good as Rinne at this point in his career as well. Ben Bishop to me is going to be the key for Dallas. And they're going to need scoring from their guys, their stars. I mean, remember when was it the GM or the owner called them out?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do, but you just said you need the stars to score.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
you did.
Well, you said Dallas needs their stars to
yeah.
score.
Well, then let's call it the whole.
Yeah, there you go.
My point is, I think their ability to advance relies on Ben Bishop, Tyler Seguin, and Jamie Benn.
Yes, I agree, and my concern with Dallas is that Ben Bishop has been hurt on and off throughout the year.
Throughout his career.
Yeah, well, definitively, but this year...
This year on his stats, his stats are pretty.
When he's in,
good,
I
yeah.
will be the first to admit he's one of the best goalies in the league.
Oh, yeah, no, he definitely is, and the fact that he's like 7'6" certainly helps, because he can cover a whole lot.
But pretty close, yes.
He can cover a hell of a lot of ground.
He can diagonally cover the whole net. Almost.
Yeah, it's like, what was his name?
He's like the Uber butterfly stance.
The Kevin Mutombo was actually made a minor league goalie just
There you
because
go.
they figured he could just stand there.
Take a shot at it, yeah.
But
No pun intended.
yeah, no, I think this is going to be. I think you're right. Bishop's going to play a key part, but I think Nashville's edge is just what you said, having the 2 goalies that they can rely on. And there's a couple of teams going into the
scoring
playoffs
lines, yeah.
like that have that.
And they've been battle tested over the last 3 years. It was Western Conference Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, and then the second round with Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Last year, which was actually a really good series. If you didn't catch it. What do you got, Token?
I am going to take Nashville in this one in 6 games. I think Dallas will squeak out a couple in this one, but Nashville just plays too physical and dominant for Dallas to handle.
Yeah. Now we should point out too that Nashville did win the season series, but it was only 3-2, so it's not like it was. And 2 of those games went to overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not like this has been blowout one way or the other. So I do agree that Nashville can win. I think 6 games probably sounds about right. I think this is going to just be a bit more of a battle as long as Bishop stays healthy, as long as Bishop stays in the net. But I think once the Nashville defense shuts down Seguin, which I think they can do, I don't see Dallas having enough firepower to get through him.
Yeah, actually, I'm with you. I don't think Dallas has enough goal scoring. They're actually one of, if not the lowest goal scoring team in not only the postseason, but I believe the NHL. I'd have to check the stats to back me up on that. But they were pretty inefficient scoring, but they also did not give up a lot of goals. I think unders will be an interesting play in this series, and I think Nashville takes it in 5. So let's stay in the West. Most interesting series of betting wise, I think, is Winnipeg versus St. Louis.
Yes.
St. Louis, hot team. Obviously not hot enough to overtake Winnipeg, even though they finished with the same amount of points at the end of the regular season. Winnipeg will have home ice, which I think is big and key in this, especially since St. Louis is probably, of the Western Conference teams, playing the hottest hockey since January. Bennington has been, for lack of a better word, a revelation.
What a find.
Yeah. He's just been amazing. If I don't know, playoffs are a different animal. Is he going to get nervous? Is he going to get the yips? You never know. But even if he does, I mean, Jake Allen's been pretty good in the playoffs as well, too, in recent past. But the Blues are the favorite, the betting favorite in this series, even though they don't have home ice.
Right, and it's sort of weird because Winnipeg did win the season series 3-1, but Bennington really didn't start playing games until December. And the entirety of this series was played before Bennington really took the ice for St. Louis.
Update: Jets are plus 105 at William Hill. So
really?
They've even crossed the threshold there.
Wow. Okay.
I missed value. I bet them at even.
Yeah, so did I actually. So I do like the Jets in this series, but not knowing how they're going to play against Bennington is the true wild card in this. But
Bennington is I think you're right. Bennington is the wild card. The Blues for years have had their top 6 has been fantastic. Their defensive, a little old, but with Petrangelo and Jay Bauermeister, however you say it. Bauermeister.
Yes.
But it all depends. I mean, if they have to play every game, knock down, drag out, I like the top 9 of Winnipeg over the top 6 of St. Louis. And I think Winnipeg's defensive with Trouba and Bufflin and all those guys, I think they're just a deeper team. Now, is what's his face Hellbuck going to be on his game? We'll see. So, and again, you hate to really go back to the same notion, but goalies are huge in the playoffs.
Oh, for sure,
absolutely.
If you can't get it by a goalie, you might as well just pack it up and go home.
Yeah, absolutely right about that. I mean, Hellbuck was kind of streaky during the regular season for sure. But I think Winnipeg prevails in this one. 6 or 7 games is my prediction. I think St. Louis probably at least gets 2.
Yeah, and this is a series where I don't know if I'm going to be betting the individual games, but I'm probably going to be looking at the totals. Right now for Game 1, the total's sitting at 5.5. And let me just read you these scores from the season series. First game, it was Winnipeg 5-1. Second game was Winnipeg 5-4. Third game was Winnipeg 8-4, and the final game was a 1-0 shutout for the Blues. So,
but that was the Bennington game, right?
No, it was actually Allen. I think Bennington didn't even get starts until later in December because this game was December 7th.
Wow, they played their last game of the series all the way in December?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why this matchup to me is so confusing.
But that's also key because the Blues were playing pretty bad in those parts of the year, which led to the 3 victories for Winnipeg, which sound like they were pretty handedly. And so that's another thing you got to kind of take into comparison. The Blues were playing hot, but they never played Winnipeg while they were hot.
Right. And now Bennington, the rookie goalie, who has never faced Winnipeg, has never played in the playoffs before,
has to face that Patrick Laine slap shot from his office.
Exactly, and you gotta wonder if he's going to be able to handle it. I think he probably can, but
not all the time.
Yeah, and it's going to make me worry. I am going to be looking at the unders in most of these games, assuming that they're going to sit at 5.5, 6 going through. But I think this is going to be.
I'm guessing most of them are 5.5 or 6. I would be shocked if there's a 6.5 in that.
Yeah, game 1 is 5.5 right now, and my concern is if it drops to 5, then I might stay away from it. But 5.5,
5 and 5.5.
Yeah, I'm taking under.
Yeah, I got the Jets in 7. I think this will be a drag-out series. I think both teams will get the best of each other on any given night. I'm thinking home ice advantage is going to be the key. I'm thinking both these teams play well at home, and Winnipeg's got the last game, and I think I think hopefully our buddy Sonny D up there will be rooting for our Winnipeg Jets bet, even though he's a Capitals fan.
Yeah, that's always seemed weird to me.
All right, you got Jets in.
I've got Jets. Actually, fuck. Yeah, give me the Jets. Let's say 6.
That was the tricky thing because Jets in 6 means they're clinching on the road. So, all right, Calgary and the Avalanche. Calgary and Colorado might be the. Well, I said Nashville and Dallas might be the most mundane. This might be the most mundane series as well.
No,
however,
I'm excited for this one.
You're excited for this one. I was gonna say, however, I love the McKinnon-Landeskog pairing.
That line's
for Colorado,
phenomenal.
but just Calgary is just silently up there. Has just been a force.
Yeah.
Calgary is the betting favorite. Let me see if I've got it up here. Avalanche Flames minus 215 to win the series.
I was going to say it's probably close to 2.
Yeah, it was minus 200 as of like 3 hours ago, so it's already moved.
And the Avalanche last year were a surprise team to make the playoffs, and they made Nashville's butthole pucker a little bit last year.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit more experienced now at this point. I'm not a huge fan of either of their goalies, either Semyon or Grubauer. I think that's going to end up doing them in, unless the Avalanche can outscore Calgary.
Yeah, the only good thing that they have going for them right now for Colorado is that Grubauer's on kind of a hot streak. But you know, all it takes is a couple of games for Calgary to get in there, get inside his head, and I don't think this one is close. And full disclosure, I should say that I did bet Calgary to win the Western Conference back in November, so I'm still holding on to that futures bet at 12-1. And I got it right before Riddick started heating up, which is the part of this that's really going to make the series interesting.
Is he going to be the go, or is it going to be Mike Smith?
To me, it frankly doesn't matter, because if one stinks, they can rely on the other one. Both of these goalies have played well. Mm-hmm. And and this is the key for all playoff teams, is that they need that second backup goalie, because we saw how important it was last year when Grubauer started above Holtby in Washington. Columbus won the first 2 games. Holtby came in and was the savior
for the rest of the Stanley Cup. Yeah.
But we saw that last year. We saw it the year before when Fleury was in for Matt Murray. We've seen it year after year after year after year. Having that second competent backup goalie is so important in these playoffs.
Absolutely.
Blues have shot up to 9-1 to win the Stanley Cup. Wow.
Yikes.
A lot of money on the Blues there. A lot coming in. A lot of these guys. I mean, the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed in the West, Predators, double digits. Flames, double digits. Everything in the West except the Knights and the Sharks. I guess the Blues too, but I mean, the Knights and the Sharks, a 2 versus 3 Pacific matchup, is going to be the 2 favorites to win. It's an interesting William Hill. I'm sure they're pretty similar all around, but those are some interesting.
They probably had a lot of handle on it during the regular season. That's probably why it could be a little lower too.
Potentially, Flames or Avalanche in.
Flames in 6 in this one. Avalanche will get a few key wins here to kind of make the Flames butthole pucker, and yeah. Yep.
All right, I got Flames in 5.
Yeah, I definitely get the Flames. If it goes 5, I wouldn't be shocked, but I think a sweep is more likely.
Yeah, wow, 4-5. Gentleman's sweep, as they like to call it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, going to the 2 favorites in the Western Conference, apparently. And again, yes, I believe in the Western Conference it is the most interesting matchup. Maybe it's just local bias here for me, too, but these 2
I've always
teams...
been a fan of the Sharks.
No, I think these 2 teams in the short time have developed a legitimate hatred for one another. Maybe it's
by far, yeah.
Maybe it's not just on the ice. I mean, you see the fans. We went to San Jose for a Tampa Bay game. And, I mean, come on, you're talking about 2 of the most non-rival teams. And the fans were just cruel to us.
Yeah.
Myself and my girlfriend. But, yeah, I mean, the Knights have basically made the Sharks their bitch in the Shark Tank. And the Sharks don't like it. The Sharks, this is their year. They picked up Carlson. They gave up the farm for Carlson, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he's probably gone after this year. They signed Evander Kane to a big deal. Joe Thornton came back.
Yep.
I mean, they've got to be... Maybe not in the realistic expectation mind, but in the fans' expectation mind, I feel like it's cup or bust for these guys.
I completely agree with you that I think it's cup or bust, especially the fact that they went all in to get EK65. The fact that Vegas knocking San Jose out last year means that San Jose is going to be even hungrier this year. I think the problem is that outside of Carlson or for San Jose, I don't think they have a defense at all. And as a Sharks fan, this series should terrify you. Absolutely terrify you.
And you should have won the Pacific.
Vegas shoots more than any team on the fucking planet, and Martin Jones has a save percentage under 90.
Yeah, he's got a 8.96 right now with a goals against average of 2.94.
Yeah,
that goals against average even sounds low for what he's been doing lately.
That is not great. And Dell's even worse.
The past month or so, he's been on the bottom end of that. Like that, those numbers seem very good compared to
over under half a game that Martin Jones gets pulled from in this series.
Oh,
I'll see over.
I could definitely see over, especially like Game 3 in Vegas. I think Vegas can go up big early, and Jones gets yanked in the second.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, Martin Jones for a while was like lights out. He was the future. Because I actually was hoping that when Vegas had the expansion opportunity that they were going to draft Aaron Dell. He hasn't been much better either.
No, 886 save percentage for Dell right now.
They're having a rough year. I mean, the thing is like but I think they won 48 games this year. Still solid. I mean that bodes well to their ability to score the puck. Yeah. Because they're going to have to score it because they're already giving it up on the back end 3-4 times a game.
And they also have Mad Joe Thornton out there too. So
Jumbo Joe,
but
Old Man Joe, Grandpa Shark. At
this point, Brett Burns is more of an asset for Vegas than he is for San Jose.
Oh, that's a funny claim, but I can see what you're saying. He's so much of a defensive liability. Then you got Vegas. I mean, one of the streakiest teams I've ever seen. I mean, they can easily get swept out of this series, and they can easily sweep the Sharks. Yeah. This is the only series I can actually see a sweep in, which is crazy to think because they are so closely competitive. This is the only series in the West I actually could. A sweep wouldn't shock me either way. Because if Vegas comes out, Fleury looked terrible his last two games. Mm-hmm. How hard he was playing, you're never going to know. But their tune-up and they're keeping guys, I'm not worried about the other guys, but looking in goalie, giving up 8 goals in the last 2 games, can he right the ship? Can he turn it around? Because as good as he looked last playoffs, you could tell he was definitely tired when it came around to the Cup final. So I'll start. I'll say, as much as I just talked about sweep, I'll say Knights in 6.
I got Vegas in a sweep.
There you go. See?
Wow.
Do you have tickets to any of the games? Did you buy tickets?
Not extra tickets, but I have my season ticket member package that I get them automatically.
Did you buy the strip?
What do you mean the strip?
You get them automatically?
Yeah. As a season ticket member, you have to opt out of getting playoff tickets.
You still pay for them, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
You get them at your seat cost?
No, they go up
inflated by
each
round
of the playoffs. Yeah. So, like, my face value on my tickets for the regular season this year was like $68 a pop. I think I'm paying it's either 85 or 90 for round 1.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know, like, as a partial holder, we only had the option to pay. You didn't have single game option. You had to pay for all 3, and I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah.
So I passed on the first round. He's got a sweep. I got Knights in 6.
Knights in 6. I think the Knights win this one because of Jones's poor performance as of late, and sticking with that. But they do squeak out a few wins, probably 1 in the Shark Tank, if not 2.
Yeah, I mean they definitely have to get 1 to win it in 6. So
I will say right now Vegas is sitting as a dog in Game 1 at plus 115, and the total sitting at 6. I think you're right with Fleury. Giving up a ton of goals his last couple of games. I still don't think Jones can see the puck whatsoever at this point in San Jose's defensive liability. I actually have this game parlayed. I have the Knights as a slight underdog with the over in this game. So that's I'm riding that.
Can you imagine Knights pick up the first game, especially if they pick it up by like 2 or 3 goals? I think you'd almost just say that the Sharks are just that game might do so much for their mental psyche. It might be a sweep.
Yeah. I could easily see that.
All right, let's move over into the East, and we have top seed Tampa Bay Lightning facing the Columbus Blue Jackets. We talked about Columbus early in the podcast here, and they are the Eastern Conference's version of the St. Louis Blues at this point, in my opinion. But yes, they are coming into a juggernaut, if you could say.
Probably one of the hottest teams in hockey right now.
I mean, probably one of the best teams historically in hockey that's within modern day. I think they tied the record for most actual wins with
did.
Detroit. But that Detroit team did not win the Cup, so that's not a good omen for them. But, nevertheless, I mean, look, I know I'm a homer, so this is going to sound biased. 3 top-quality scoring lines. They have 6 defensemen that can all... They're basically two-way defensemen, in my opinion. Sergachev, Hedman, Strawman, if he comes back during the playoffs, is going to be a huge boost. But if he doesn't, I'd say their worst defenseman is Coburn, and he's actually probably fairly decent. He'd probably be a top-4 defenseman on most teams. Then you have Columbus, like I said, a couple of snipers in Duchesne and Panarin, and if goalie Bob's on, they're going to be a tough out. That being said, Spike, what do you got? I won't get my prediction yet.
One of the things that worries me about this series is for as good as Columbus can be, I just don't think they have the talent and the speed to match up with Tampa Bay through an entire series. We saw that during the regular season series. The Lightning not only won it 3-0, but the scores of the games were Tampa Bay 8-2, Tampa Bay 4-0, and Tampa Bay 5-1 right around the time of the trade deadline.
If you look at Tampa Bay's season record against everybody, they all kind of look like that.
Right, no, I
get you.
I get that, which is why right now, for Game 1, the total is actually sitting at 6.5, which seems high to me. Because I think they're expecting Columbus to get on the scoreboard, and I don't know that they will, at least not as often to get that over number. I really like the under in Game 1. I think that's a pretty safe one there. And it should be pointed out, too, 81% of the public money is in on Tampa Bay in Game 1.
Wow.
81%.
Yeah.
So that's
kind of dangerous.
That's pretty bold.
Especially when you look at the series price, Tampa Bay is minus 400.
Yeah, that's
to win
ridiculous.
This series.
Absolutely no value in that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, the value. I have a Columbus Blue Jackets future as well, and I was just praying that they got the first wild card, not the second, so they could at least play the Capitals. Because if they played the Capitals, they could have a little revenge. Remember, like you said, they went up 2-0, went home, and promptly got effectively swept at that point.
Yeah, manhandled at that point. Yeah.
So actually, that's not necessarily true. Game 3, I think, went to double or triple overtime.
I think went to double. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that was the momentum shift that Washington needed.
I mean, of course, if you can go up 3-0 on the Capitals, and then you didn't get that chance, I mean, especially when you won the first two at home. But yeah, I was praying that they picked off the first wild card, not the second wild card. But it's all good. Mm-hmm. I think it's Tampa Bay in 5.
I'm saying Blue Jackets will find a way to win a few games.
What a fake out! What a fake out! Yeah, I think they'll find a way to win.
But Tampa wins in 7.
In 7?
Wow!
I would.
Bob's got to be on his head in that one.
I would love seeing this series go 7 games.
I think the Blue Jackets aren't as physical of a team as Tampa, but they could play up to their level and make it a physical, demanding series and take a few cheap shots.
I just don't know who they have that's physical.
Yeah, McQuaid's pretty much the only one.
Yeah, McQuaid and maybe is Letestu still there?
I have no idea.
He was a little bit of a bruiser last year. I don't know if he still stayed with the team, but I think John Tortorella would get a 4-year extension if he took Tampa Bay to 7 games.
Oh yeah.
Especially what they've done. The question would be for them is what they do in the offseason with their two. Did they lock Duchesne up?
I have no.
If they didn't, then they have 3 prize free agents that are all going to hit the market. So, all right, let's talk Boston and Toronto, because it seems like with the playoff format and the way that these teams are constructed, we're going to get this series a lot in the next.
Oh yeah.
Well, even counting past, we're going to get this series a lot in the next decade.
Yeah. Oh shit. Sorry, I'm just looking at Columbus's roster right now. So, Panarin and Duchesne are free agents this year.
Bob's a free agent.
Goalie Bob and Kincaid are free agents. So both of their goalies are free agents.
Didn't they have Corpusalo? Whatever happened to that guy? He was supposed to be pretty good.
He is restricted free agent after this year.
Jonas Corpusalo or whatever his name is.
and I don't know what's going on with him.
About Seth Jones, the under contract?
McQuaid is a free agent at the end of this year. Werenski is a restricted free agent after
Zach
this year.
Werenski, another young guy.
Let's see.
I just don't. Yeah, you're right. McQuaid is their bruiser, but I don't think they have enough.
Ryan DeZingle is an unrestricted free agent after this year.
Well, yeah, because he was in the Duchesne trade.
Yep.
Came over from Ottawa.
And Seth Jones is wrapped up for a few more years, so you don't have to worry about him.
I wasn't,
but
I was hoping he was a free agent, so maybe he'd be on the move, maybe to Vegas or.
But who were you asking about before?
I don't know. I was asking about Corpusalo, but are you talking about other goalies?
Yeah, no.
Oh,
right
Let's Tube.
No, the for who they had signed. So Panarin, Duchesne,
Bob,
DeZingle are all unrestricted free agents for
McQuaid.
forwards.
Is Bob a restrictor?
Goalie Bob is unrestricted.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he's been in the league a while. So.
Yeah. So this Columbus team could look very, very different, and
that's why I think they're going for it all. I think if they get knocked out of here, I think Tortorella get fired too.
Yeah, and next year they have a 3rd-round draft pick and a 7th-round draft pick, and that's it.
Well, yeah, because they gave up a lot for Duchesne.
Yeah, so they need to make sure that
I think they traded a second for McQuaid, if I'm not mistaken.
They need to get that shit back, and if they
it's going to be dark times in Columbus if they don't win a cup this year. Even if they do, it's still going to be some dark times, but they can have a cup too.
Yeah, they're going to have to rebuild.
Yeah.
It'll be separate.
If they get swept, I'll say bold prediction. I'll say this, bold prediction. They get swept, Tortorella gets fired. They go to 7, Tortorella gets an extension.
Oh, guaranteed, yeah.
All right, Boston and Toronto. Let's move to a series that should be another one of the most exciting series. I think it's more exciting than Vegas and San Jose, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Last year it went to 7. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Correct.
Went to 7 with Boston prevailing. This year, same situation. Home ice goes to the Bruins. But this is a different team with John Tavares and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
It is, but it isn't, because I'm still not sold on Toronto's back-end defense and goalies.
Frederik Andersen is a tough one to be confident in, yes.
But
Morgan Riley and those guys are pretty good.
They're fine. The problem is, I know that we're going to talk about Tampa Bay scoring a lot throughout these playoffs, especially for as deep as they run.
These two teams are probably going to score a lot.
But for my money, Boston's top line is the best in the league.
The over-under's got to be 6.5 for this game.
Like, if I were starting a team, it's 6 right now.
6?
6 for game 1. It might move.
I'd probably take the over, yeah.
Depending on how game 1 goes, obviously that could move for games 2 and 3. But right now it's sitting at 6. If I'm starting a team, any team in this league, I am taking the Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak line as a top line. Especially knowing that Boston, when Pasternak went down, DeBrusk stepped up to the top line. He was phenomenal. If you don't have DeBrusk, they've got Krejci, who's been there for years and years and years. This kid Wagner, I forget whatever it is. He's looked great. Even
David Backes' playoff experience.
Yeah, Backes is surprising me. When Boston came to play Vegas, I was like, Backes is washed up. He's done. He ended up scoring the winning goal in the shootout. So there's a lot about this Boston team to like, especially in this matchup, especially with their depth. We can talk about Tavares and Austin Matthews all day, but I just don't know what Toronto can do beyond that line that gets them past this Boston team, especially in recurring theme, 2 goalies is key. And for as good as Rask has played, Halak has looked great for Boston as well.
Yeah, but I mean, if Halak gets into the series, that means something's wrong.
Sure,
and that's most of the series. Like, as good as Domingue was this year, he was the goalie with the most wins as a backup. I mean, if the Lightning have to go to Domingue, they drop off. And I get what you mean by Halak not being a drop off, but you don't want to have to go to your backup in the playoffs.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so series.
I am on Toronto in 7 in this one. I believe the Maple Leafs are the better team in this one. Anderson, not the best goalie, but he's good enough to get this team past Boston. Very physical, demanding challenge.
Wasn't
for them.
Last year.
I know.
I look at the over in a lot of these games. Like, Tuukka Rask is the only one that
You're going to
really...
see a lot of shots being faced on both sides of the net.
I think Frederik Andersen's good for 3 goals a game. Giving up.
that sounds right.
But Tuukka might be the same, though.
Rask, well, that's what I'm saying. If Rask is right on par, But Rask is also the goalie I'm more confident that could have a 50-save shutout in this series.
Right. And if we're looking at
which is why I think it's going to go 7.
the season series, Boston did win it 3-1. Boston 5-1. Toronto 4-2. Boston 6-3. Boston 3-2. So when you're talking about Anderson giving up about 3 goals a game, you're
right on par.
You're right on there. All right. So your series bet or prediction?
I also think it goes 7, which I do love a good bloodbath, but not when one of my teams is involved. I think Boston ekes it out, though.
I'm with you. Boston in 7 myself. I think it's almost a mirror of that. I think it's almost home team wins every game, I'll say, in this series.
I could see that. And Boston's home ice advantage in the playoffs is pretty fucking strong.
All right, Caps Canes. One thing I'm most rooting for the Canes in this series is just because I hope they continue celebrating the bunch of jerks.
Dominoes on those.
Well, they talked about like if they make the playoffs, they're not gonna do it. And I'm like, I'm all on board. Keep it going.
Yeah, keep
it relaxes the team. Yeah. Brenda Moore has
fun.
got this team playing good hockey.
For them to look forward to.
The ironic thing is I think for the last 2 or 3 years, I've bet the Hurricanes at like 100-1 to win it all, and then I didn't bet them this year, and now I actually have a shot. But they weren't 100-1 this year. I think they were like 60-1 this year.
Yeah,
but still,
they've got a tough contest this year facing the Capitals.
I mean, look at some of the long shots that would have been this year. The Blues would have been a longer shot this year. I would say the Canes and the Islanders.
Even the Flames, their value was very good at the beginning of the year.
Sure, yeah, that's right, because they missed the playoffs last year as well. Yeah. Caps, Canes, Ovi going for a repeat. It's got to start here with the Carolina Hurricanes, who haven't been in the playoffs in, I believe, almost a decade now.
Roughly, yeah.
Exactly 10 years. 2009 was the last time they were in.
Okay. You wonder about playoff experience with this team. A lot of this, Svechnikov, if I'm saying that right.
Sounds about right.
A lot of this team's young. I mean, the goalie they're going in with, I assume, is Mrazek at this point.
It's got to be, yeah.
That scares me.
That scares me too. But that being said, I think the Capitals are all on Holtby. We know what we're going to get out of their lines. The thing I love most about the Capitals is they rotate their lines so well in an attempt to get their best line against your worst line. And that, to teams with coaching staffs that aren't the greatest, it is a great exploitation. So this will be Brenda Moore's first test to see if look, I don't think anybody expects them to win, but if they're competitive, it's going to be big things cooking for Tom Dundon Tom Dundon and his Canes, because now he doesn't have the AAF to watch anymore since he shut it down. Caps Canes, your thoughts on this series?
Oh, me? All right.
For anybody. That was a general.
Yeah, okay. You caught me just as I was taking a sip of water, which is what fucked me up.
Nailed it.
I don't see this being all that competitive. I think Washington wins. If it takes 5 games, so be it. I think you're right about Carolina trying to match up their lines against Washington's worst line, or whatever they can do.
Their fourth line, or an inferior line.
Yeah, and I think in this case, Carolina on home ice can win a game, and I say that because most of their scoring has to come from Sebastian Aho, and you can line up Aho against. I would actually put him up against Ovechkin's line, because Ovechkin's such a matador on defense that he just doesn't give a shit. Mm-hmm.
That's why Tommy Wilson plays his line.
Right. Well, and that's where I think that Carolina can steal a game, but I don't see them doing much more than that. I think this is over and done with before it even starts. Give me Washington. I'll even say Washington in 5 just to be nice, but I'm not even convinced about that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Washington will win this one. I actually think Carolina squeaks out 2, though. I think they place so many shots on that every game, as well as their defense doesn't give up too many. They've got one of the biggest differences for shots per game against shots against per game. That might be a difference maker in one of the games that they squeak out 2 wins. Even though I'm a huge hater of Mrazek.
Why? He's gone. Let it go.
Yeah, he still sucks.
Well, he sucked just well enough to make the playoffs.
True.
For whatever reason, I feel like just listening to a lot of people, reading a lot of articles, and maybe it's just the fans. I mean, it's hard to really say what a team's thinking, but I feel like just general people around Washington are overlooking this series because you're looking at, based on the betting favorite, you're looking at Pittsburgh and Washington again in the second round next round in the second round of the playoffs. I think Carolina's going to win this in 7 games. I think there's just enough with Justin Williams and Dougie Hamilton of that we've been there before mentality. You're right. The young guys, Sebastian Aho is clearly one of them. The young guys might have enough to basically say, look, we've never been here before, but it's just hockey. And as much as I believe
they'll play each game by each game, and instead of looking forward to the next round, which the Capitals will probably be.
The Capitals might be, and also I also think that even though the Capitals are defending champions, and Ovi has that monkey off his back, he has that comparison. He'll always have the comparison to Sidney Crosby. So is he going to be pressing a little bit to try to win another one? Maybe. I mean, does that mean that they're going to fall head and shoulders over over the Canes? No, I don't think I'll see a sweep. But I think there might be a situation where they get behind in the series and really never have an ability to catch up. And I'd like to say Canes in 6, but I think the Capitals deserve more respect and are a better team than to give them credit for. But that would also require Carolina winning Game 7 in Washington, D.C., which is going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one, but I took the Carolina Hurricanes.
Hellebuyck's got a tough contest in front of him.
Who?
Our
Holtby?
Holtby, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I mean, Hellebuck's got a tough one, too, but we're past that.
Yeah.
That was like 30 minutes in the podcast.
The wrong H goalie.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm not incredibly confident in this pick. It's really more of a personal hope, I guess you could say. But I'll take the Carolina Hurricanes in 7 games. All right.
Cool to see that.
Brooklyn and the Islanders, even though they're really technically the Long Islanders, they split the season between Brooklyn and Long Island, so however you want to call them. Actually went to a game there against the Knights. Their stadium is fucking awful.
I've heard that.
The lights went
out
too.
And the lights went out during the third period, yeah. So they get the luxury of facing always the really weirdest, most underrated, most overrated, most dangerous, most not dangerous team in the playoffs, and that's the Pittsburgh Penguins. I love this matchup. I love the way that the Islanders have moved on from John Tavares. And they play as a team. And you're talking about guys like Halak who have come through. Thomas Greiss has played incredible hockey, in my opinion. And the other guy that they rotate in with him, his name is escaping me. But I really like this Islanders team. Even when I watched them play the Knights and they lost, I really like the way that they play together more as a unit with Anders Lee and Barzal. Then they felt like they had to. What's the word I'm saying? They had to divert to Tavares for the last 7 years.
Yeah, and I agree with you with the upfront being so good, but the goalie tandem of Grease and Robin Lehner.
That's what he came from Buffalo.
Yes, and not only was he damn good, but he was actually second in save percentage for starting goalies behind Ben Bishop.
So he'll be the starter more than likely then.
Yeah.
Thomas Greiss played pretty well this year.
Oh, I mean, he was, about 7th in save percentage amongst starters? No, 6th. So he's amongst even amongst the starters. So
amongst goalies who had enough games, I guess.
Yeah, Greiss was in for 43 games. Leonard in for the rest. So this is a strong tandem. We'll put it that way. But yeah, no, I have no idea where I'm going with this series. To be perfectly honest with you, I know that
Pittsburgh's a weird team.
We've done the bracket. Yeah, Pittsburgh. I can't figure them out. This is a team that it's feast or famine with them, and I don't know how they are going to match up against a team like the Islanders that has a strong goalie tandem. Pittsburgh, when they had Fleury, we could say the same thing about them. I'm not sure that what's his name, Matt Murray,
and Casey DeSmith.
Casey DeSmith. I was going to say Casey DeHaan, but I knew that wasn't right.
No, that's Cole DeHaan. I think he plays for the Islanders.
He might. So, anyway, season series right now is actually tied 2-2. The Islanders winning 6-3, Islanders winning 3-2, Pittsburgh winning 6-2, and then Pittsburgh winning 2-1. 2 of those games went to shootouts. So, It's just such a weird, tough, interesting matchup.
They got to win the first two at home for their own confidence, I think.
I think you're right about that. And the one thing that we should be looking at is I don't know that I would bet the series as it was. I think the Islanders are a slight dog. The last time I saw them, they were at plus 120.
The best value might be for Pittsburgh just to get a game. Chase bet. Pittsburgh's not going to get swept.
No,
Yeah,
definitively not. But
Chase bet to get the Penguins a game, I think.
I mean, if you're looking at just betting the individual games, game one is minus 110 either way.
Either way, yeah.
I mean, it's very even. You know,
the best of 7 series in this one is Penguins minus 140, Islanders plus 120.
Yeah. So I think the value is, if I'm putting money on it right this second, I'm probably taking the Islanders to win the series and the Islanders to win game one.
2.3 goals against per game for the Islanders is going to be huge because they don't score a lot.
Yeah, and their record.
See a lot of close games in this one.
Islanders' record at home, Pittsburgh record on the road is pretty much the same. So it's going to come down to the play of the goalies, and I think right now the way the goalies for the two teams are playing, I think the Islanders have enough of an advantage that game one goes to the Islanders.
Fair enough. Like you said, it spreads all the way around. I mean, their leading goal scorer was Anders Lee with 28, and their leading point getter was Barzal with 62. So I mean, they're kind of a la Vegas Night style. They don't have that Kucherov, they don't have that Crosby or Malkin kind of guy. They all kind of do it as a team. But I think the big factor really is Barry Trotz coming over token.
Yeah, that definitely is a big factor. I would say my pick for this is.
Nothing, no comment on it.
Nah.
Okay. Do you know what Barry Trotz is?
No.
I threw that one up at you. My bad. That was my fault. What do you got? Who's your pick?
My pick in this one is Pittsburgh in 6. I think.
Oh, you're the worst.
I know. I think Islanders are a good enough team, but you might even see multiple games in the series go to overtime, and
that's a fair assessment. I can see that.
Yeah,
out of the overtime, I like Pittsburgh's experience out of that.
I will say, every time I watch Crosby play, he is amazing. Like, just even when he doesn't have the puck, it's just
his footwork and
it's just the way he plays hockey.
handling,
It's like the game and the puck just naturally have their way of finding him, and maybe that's not coincidental.
The sport was built for him.
Well, I mean, if you watch Gretzky had a lot of feet. I mean, his players got him the puck. It feels like Crosby gets himself the puck by being in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah,
I've never seen a guy
he's
like
like
that.
the chess version of a hockey player.
I didn't watch Lemieux as much, but I've gone back and watched Gretzky. Lemieux, a lot of people say are similar, obviously, with Crosby, not just the fact that they played for the Penguins, but there's not been a guy who has the game come to him so easily like that.
Yeah, and I think that not only is Crosby that good, but being paired with good line mates is helping as well. Obviously Malkin's on the second line, so they have a
Phil Kessel too.
1 and 2. Yeah, but Phil Kessel being on Crosby's wing, I think, is massive. That was such a good pickup for Pittsburgh. I hated losing him out of Boston, especially going to Toronto. And then going from Toronto to Pittsburgh, it's just he's gone from worst team to worst team as a Boston fan. But seeing Kessel being able to play that way, especially that motherfucker eats so many goddamn hot dogs. I don't know how he stays in shape, but he does enough to make Crosby look like a star and to make himself look good at the same time. So I don't know. It drives me insane.
They're a tough team. It's going to be a hard out. He's got the Pittsburgh Penguins in 6.
I'm going Islanders in 7.
I am going Islanders in 7 as well. I think this is going to be the same kind of series as the Toronto and Bruins series. Knock down, drag them out. Physical hockey. Who's going to be the least tired at the end of this series? And it sets up a pretty fun matchup, in my opinion, if my predictions go right, of Islanders and Carolina Hurricanes.
That'd be an interesting second-round matchup for sure.
I would love to watch that. I don't see Carolina getting past Washington, but I would love to see that.
I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina got past Washington.
No, yeah, I agree with that, obviously, because I picked it.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm still on the Capitals to win the series. But
yeah, I mean, who would be the biggest upset? It's got to be Carolina, right?
No, it's Columbus.
Columbus would be the biggest upset, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Columbus makes the playoffs enough that probably Columbus. Yeah, I think that would. Yeah, oof.
I mean, you're talking the entirety of the first round. It would be Columbus over Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, betting wise, it's the biggest. Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, I just thinking the Hurricanes are just such a new team in terms of playoff experience.
Yeah, but remember too that Carolina, for as long ago as it was, has a Stanley Cup. Columbus has never won a series.
Correct. They have not won a series. You are correct.
In their team history.
Yeah, it's that's a tough one. You're right. Okay, all right, you convinced me. It's Columbus. All right, who are your teams to meet in the Cup final?
I am on Winnipeg.
We'll do the second round.
Winnipeg and Toronto.
Ooh,
Winnipeg and Toronto.
So
All
two
Canadian
Canadian
final.
teams. I like that.
He's got Toronto beating Tampa Bay effectively. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I actually have Tampa Bay and Calgary.
So you got the chalk.
I'm going straight favorites on this one.
Yeah. I have Tampa Bay versus Winnipeg, with the Lightning hoisting the cup this year. Because I think, in my opinion, and I posted this on social media, it's Super Bowl, Stanley Cup or bust for the Lightning this year. And even though that
Super Bowl or busted by their mentality.
Super Bowl would be even more of an accomplishment.
Your Lightning would probably beat my Lions.
On ice and on the gridiron.
Yes. Both.
Oh man!
Even though that everybody just got re-signed and they're going to be a force for a long time, and Cooper just got a new deal, it's Stanley Cup or bust. I really believe that. Even though the team that whoever they face coming out of that Bruins Maple Leaf series is going to give them a series, and I think if they get to the Eastern Conference Final, the Caps seem to have their number, but every other team I think they can beat no problem. So that second round series is going to be the one that is going to be the most interesting for me.
Might be the roadblock
as a Lightning fan, yeah. And that brings me to another question: do you like the way the playoffs are set up? Basically, they're divisions down into the Final Four. Or would you rather have?
I hate it.
I kind of like it.
I like it.
Win your division.
I hate it.
Win your division, and you represent the conference in the conference finals. Is what I mean. You represent division in the conference finals. Is what I meant.
I like the old way. I like top 8 teams getting in.
Or do you like top 16 teams regardless of conference?
I like that idea much better. I know me and you talked about that.
Well, if that was the case, Tampa Bay and VGK would be playing the first round.
Yeah.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah. No, I definitively don't like that. No, I like this a lot more because it makes the division so much more important.
Yep.
It makes the division rivalries that much more heated because the wins and losses from the previous year's playoffs carry over into next year's regular season. It makes for much more exciting.
Bad blood and all that.
It makes for common rivalries too. I mean, look how many years Washington and Pittsburgh have played each other in the second round.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Tampa Bay and the Bruins, if they should be the two teams to advance, we've had that for 3 straight years, I believe,
Something
as well.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, and last year was the.
There's gonna be a lot of years where we get Vegas and the Sharks, Vegas and the Kings.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are fun series.
Winnipeg and Nashville are going to have a lot of years.
Even Arizona's starting to creep up.
Arizona's going to the Central when
they're
Seattle
going to
comes
Central
in
a couple of years. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are.
But I like them as a futures bet for next year if they can stay healthy. That was a lot of injuries to only miss the playoffs by 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, this is an exciting. I like this a lot more. If they were going to go back to the 1 through 8 system and through the conference, I would want them to adopt the SPHL model of teams 1 through 4 picking their.
Yeah,
opponents.
we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
That would be cool because, if Tampa Bay then picked, well, I mean they're getting the best team, but if they said, hey, look, we'd rather have Carolina in this. Now Carolina's got an added sense of fuck you. To Tampa.
Exactly. It creates bad blood that way. Yeah.
That would be interesting. I would wonder if a professional football league would ever consider that. A professional sports league would ever consider that, especially football, because I'm the first to say the difference between the Patriots and, well, the Browns aren't a good example anymore. The difference between the Patriots and the Cardinals isn't that huge, in my opinion. It's 1 or 2, 3 players and maybe a few X's and O's. But again, I'm talking about talent level overall across 53 guys is not so disparate.
That's why, early in the season, we had that talk about Alabama and the Bills and all that. I mean,
yeah, we have that talk every year, it seems.
Yeah, it's the spread would be.
But that's the thing; it's so much more, in my opinion, in hockey. You get like Holtby. I mean, Tampa Bay should win that series 9 times out of 10. But back-to-back shutouts in Game 6 and Game 7, that just doesn't happen.
No.
And then Holtby was phenomenal against the Golden Knights. So overall, were the Caps the better team against either of those opponents? Maybe, maybe not. But when you have a guy who's literally a brick wall, you're not winning.
Yeah.
The other team's not winning. So that could happen. I mean, goalie Bob has what did Fleury have as his goals against average? It was like sub-1 up until the finals last year. His save percentage was like 96, I think.
Oh, yeah, they were talking about Fleury winning the Conn Smythe regardless of whether or not the Knights won the Cup until Stanley Cup final.
Had a huge final, yeah.
And then, Fleury just got run out of the building by the end.
He did. That is true. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you get a guy like Holtby. If goalie Bob goes on that kind of run against Tampa, you got no shot.
Could go 7 games easily as well as the upset, yeah.
I mean, I don't think Lightning are going to get swept, but
No.
I wonder if they have an exact.
No,
prop.
not for that right now. They have just for the VGK San Jose.
Oh God, could you imagine? What do you think? Just set a line on Columbus in 4.
Oh,
20-1.
10-1.
I was going to say 20-1.
They're like 3.5 to 1 to win the series.
Yeah.
VGK
regardless of
Sharks
games.
in 4 is just 13-1.
What is Knights in
Knights in 4 is 12-1.
I'm taking that right now.
I would say Columbus might be 20 or 30.
I would say 20.
You
yeah.
were more correct. I said 10, and that was way off. So.
Yeah. How much of a dog they are even in the series, but yeah.
It might even be 50-1. Check and see if there's an offshore book that's offering that. I wonder if there is. We need Tony Johnson in all his offshore books at this point. I'll send him a text, see if he comes back with anything before the end of the podcast. All right, exact series results. That's just the Knights. Damn it, come on, Vegas, let's go. You're the worst, but also the best. Do you see that Vegas, even with all the other states, still took in the amount of revenue, more revenue than all the other states combined?
Yeah,
including New Jersey.
yeah,
but New Jersey is the second, is far and away second place.
Yeah, and they're coming up too. But I think Delaware is going to cut into that action a little bit from South Jersey.
Pennsylvania's fucking it up too. And if you're New York, how are you letting these people go to New Jersey?
Yeah, it's baffling at this point. Once it gets legalized somewhere, you have to legalize it around.
But they were talking about
area.
like most wagers, because I guess New Jersey is mobile, just like Nevada is with like DraftKings and FanDuel and their sports books. They said most of the wagers come from like just over the border, just over the bridge, the George Washington. People are literally driving over the George Washington, pulling off in like that rest stop or whatever, betting, and then driving back.
It's kind of like
how are you not capitalizing?
It's kind of like Prim for California.
Well,
for the
especially
lottery.
New York, the city that has so much in taxes. How do they not have their hands all over this? I mean, they have a fucking soda tax for fucking Christ's sake.
Yeah, it seems baffling. Actually, if you guys haven't been watching the show Action on Showtime, where they're
I want to binge it a little bit. But.
Yeah, because it's the docuseries about sports betting, and they're talking about they have people in Vegas, they have people in Jersey. They talk to illegal bookies that are still working out of New York.
Do they blur them?
Yeah, they blurred him, changed this, and they didn't even like show from above like the upper lip. So, and they changed his voice, like the whole thing was out there.
Like
actually,
a Liberty Mutual guy.
I've
been compromised.
The bookie actually made a good point, which I didn't think was something I'd ever say. One of the things he said was, sports bettors, if they want to go into a sports book and bet on credit, they're going to get laughed out of the room.
Correct.
Bookies will let them bet on credit, which is why he doesn't.
And they've extended it too.
Yeah, which is why he doesn't think that the bookie will ever go away.
I agree.
But he's saying that his personal business
sports book's not going to break your face.
Yeah, his personal business hasn't been affected by this. But they were talking to other people who were sitting in sports books in New Jersey that were saying, "Oh yeah, my bookie's calling me right now to find out why I'm not placing bets and I'm just not taking his calls." So
yeah, some of them are probably
some of them are probably hurting, some of them are probably not.
Depends on where that bookie is as well too. I mean, if it's how far of it, if you're up in like Connecticut, how far is it to drive to Jersey? Are you really going to do it for a $50 bet?
Right. Yeah. That's the other question.
Probably
if
how
you're
much
living,
you're betting
if
too
you're
and all
living
that.
in the Lower East Side and you freaking take the PATH train over to Jersey, make your bet, and take the PATH train back to Manhattan, it's you could basically you could make a $50 bet. It ain't that big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, so
if you're out on the island or any of that stuff.
It just depends on what people want to do, how far they're willing to travel and all that. But I
just think New York has to. If New York, I wonder if that bookie would have the same tune if New York got on board with this.
I don't know. But now that Massachusetts has casinos, Connecticut obviously has the Indian casinos. Rhode Island has a few places. New Hampshire has places. Maine has a couple of casinos.
Yeah.
So we're talking about essentially the entire Northeast has casinos. Has
Or it's getting
casinos,
there, yeah.
and they're looking at sports
Maryland
betting.
has some.
Yeah.
Well, it's still Maryland, but the National Harbor around D.C., MGM's there.
Yeah, so at some point, New York has to wake up and get this done because they could clean up.
They're talking about D.C. legalizing, I think, parlay cards or just straight wagers or something. I didn't read it too much, but yeah. The funny thing is that the handle of sports betting in Las Vegas theoretically is so small, but yet it still trumps all of these other states.
Oh yeah, and the
March Madness. I mean, just being a person who's in the industry, I saw March Madness. Didn't see really too much of a downtick in population here or visitors.
yeah. And I think that was the one thing that Vegas was concerned about when the rest of the country started legalizing it. How would it affect the Super Bowl? How would it affect March Madness? And the answer is that it hasn't.
Well, they did it the right way. You look at basically not FanDuel and DraftKings, and even with DraftKings partnering with Caesars, you look, it's MGM, it's Caesars, and it's Boyd.
Yep.
They said, well, instead of sitting back here and pouting, we're going to go get into all these new markets. So what did you really change as far as competition? Not much. But it doesn't mean that you can't open up your own sports book.
Sure.
If you got the capital.
Yeah, well, that's the problem is having the capital because a lot of these places, places that don't want to run their own sports book, they'll partner with the William Hill or the DraftKings.
Cantor or the DraftKings.
Yeah, or the CG Gaming. Is that Cantor?
That's Cantor Gaming.
Okay, yeah. So there are other things out there. It's difficult to break into the market, especially if you're not affiliated with a big casino already.
And now the NFL and all the four major sports are affiliated with Caesars or MGM. I mean,
and they still come out and say that we're opposed to legalized gambling, but they have partnerships with DraftKings, they have partnerships with Caesars, and they're still going to come out and say, no, you shouldn't bet on this. It's like, give me a fucking
remember the
break.
March Madness? Don't bet on it. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you're just you're in what's the word I'm looking for?
Hypocritical.
Inciting me to bet more. I don't
Yeah.
know what the fuck the word is. Enticing me. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
It's insane. But people want to take the moral high ground while also getting the money.
Well, my favorite is like the Adam Silver. We're going to charge an integrity fee. So you mean if they don't pay you, you guys are going to cook the books? So what does that mean? I already think the NBA is rigged. So what do you by coming out and saying you're going to charge an integrity fee, 1% of the take, which we all know the take and the handle and the actual profit are far different over the course of a year.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
The book may clean up on the Super Bowl, but they may leak it back in some sports that aren't necessarily as paid attention to, like golf, baseball,
Tennis.
or hockey, or tennis.
And this is the one thing that actually drove me crazy about Action, because the first couple episodes are focusing on the people that are betting football. And this is all recorded during football season. That's when the most money is coming into the sports book, so it makes the most sense.
Is it a continuous show, or is it just like a miniseries?
I think it's like a mini-series. I don't know how many episodes they have planned, but episode 3 just aired, I think, last night.
Gotcha.
But they're talking about football and everything else, and these people are like, oh yeah, you can come in, you can place these bets, you can make money, and blah blah blah. I'm thinking to myself, a sports bet is a sports bet regardless of what sport you're betting on. So if you're betting on the NFL, the sports books know the trainers, know the coaches, know the players, know the weather. They're doing more research, and they have more people to spend time on all of these
Better
games
research than you do. Yeah.
than you could
For the
ever
most part.
possibly imagine.
They're like the first people to know when somebody's hurt.
Unless you're betting a Pats
all
game
that.
and you're in Bill Belichick's pocket, you don't have as much invested as they do.
Exactly. And so I'm thinking to myself, how are you not betting the WNBA? If you do 2 minutes of research on the WNBA, you have done double the research of any sports book in the state of Nevada.
Probably.
So,
like the Vegas Spades and all
right.
that. Yeah.
And this is what drove me crazy is that
They're the aces, bro.
Our aces, yeah.
NHL used to be so
Spades.
profitable
Racist.
before the Golden Knights came in because nobody in Vegas paid attention to hockey. The handle was too low. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
You could make a fucking killing betting hockey.
Now, not so much.
But now that now that the Golden Knights exist,
Well, not only that, they
sports books have to pay
they
attention.
capture the recreational sports better, and they give, in my opinion, I mean, the 16th best team is now the or third favorite to win the cup. It's clearly a home bias.
Oh, for sure.
They should not be anywhere near the second or third favorite to win the cup.
Deflated, yeah.
Even looking at their team, just realistically, as a unit, they're not even the third best team in the NHL, in my opinion. So, but they can be if they play streaky enough.
In my opinion, they're like the 7th best as of right now.
I mean, you could slice hairs at this point, but yeah, I know. I get what you're saying. I just think it's a pure. We're not going to get burned again by the 500 to 1 tickets or the 300 to 1 tickets. So they're going
they're
to, because they know
deflating
the
the odds,
action. It's not that necessarily that they're a good team or they're a bad team. They know that most of this action from the homers is going to come out of the nights. You want something to root for while you're watching the games.
And they probably already have so much handle on them too.
Probably. I mean, last year they had so much more risk for little. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze at that point. This year it might be a little more even because I think the Knights have been pretty much single digit to win the Cup almost all year. I think they opened up at like 6-1. I don't think they've ever gotten any higher than like 9 or 10-1 I could be wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying attention.
I think
to the
I saw
futures.
12 at like 1 point. For
Even
like,
still, 12 isn't
for like
too
2 days.
huge of a.
Yeah, well, they had that streak
reward,
where they went like 3-18 at one point.
I think it was during that.
Yeah, going to 12-1 doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, but even still, like you said, when they go
Well,
3
a regular
18,
team would probably go 20-1.
20 to 30-1. Yeah, absolutely. Especially at 3-18, you fall far out.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. We'll do the second round. The first round usually can take about 2 weeks, so I guess you'll see our second round projections in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have Winnipeg and Tampa with Tampa hoisting the cup.
I have Calgary over Tampa Bay in the final.
And I have Winnipeg and Toronto with Winnipeg winning it.
So two of us have a
We all
Canadian
have a Canada. We all have a Canada. Oh no, I don't have a Canada hoisting a cup.
No, but two of us do. For the first time since 1993, a Canadian team will win the Stanley Cup.
That was
And if his predictions go well, then it'll happen no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
It was the Habs the last time.
That is true. They beat the Kings. They beat Barry Melrose's Kings.
Yep.
All right, let's wrap it up there. We'll thank the sponsors, 12-Ounce Sports Radio, Vegas Puckline Apparel, ChaiPoker.com, and Eric on the Web Productions. For Spike, for Token Tony, for Tony Johnson, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. We are out.